Hi, everybody. We're the Infamy Fantasy Esports team. We host fantasy Fortnite tournaments on our website, infamy.gg. We'll be hosting fantasy Fortnite events for the new season of Fortnite, so check that out. But today we're just going to bring you an esports roundup, and I'll be starting off with the topic of Nvidia. They announced their new graphics card, the 3000 series, and what's interesting about this is that they have partnered with Epic Games to provide features specifically catered towards Fortnite. So what they did was they added NVIDIA DLSS, which is for faster performance, which will help reduce end game lag. A lot of Fortnite players complain about that. And the other one they added was ray tracing, which will allow you to see reflections accurately. So it'll be like in a real mirror in game, which I think is super interesting. My what intrigued me about this topic was that like they work so closely.
How about
with
you
Epic.
further explain the real mirror aspect?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna go into that. So yeah, they worked so close with Epic Games, and the feature like ray tracing allows you to, if you have the setting on, you can use a mirror as a real mirror. So if someone's sneaking up behind you, you can actually see that in game. So now, how many times you like running past the building and you like look at the mirror and it's just like some shittily drawn reflection of something, but now like if there's a kid trying to sneak up on you, you can actually see that kid and like react accordingly. So now mirrors are like a valuable strat, which I think is cool. But
A counterpoint to
yeah,
that, there's footsteps. I feel like you just hear them.
yeah, there are footsteps, but there are people who
Who play
are
with
deaf,
no sound.
yeah, or play with no sound.
No sound and can really
Oh right,
use
yes,
these
I forgot
mirrors.
about Blake, our flop over here, not playing.
I'm
stuff.
trying to listen to music. I ain't trying to listen to your fucking
But
footsteps.
yeah, also like sometimes in games, like the way sound works in a lot of games is it prioritizes like what the game thinks you should hear first. So like sometimes you won't even hear footsteps. So those situations you
You'll hear
can
the
use.
birds chirping in the background.
Yeah,
Straight up,
those
yeah.
birds are pretty close. And another thing they did, this graphics card is powered by AI, which is how it does the performance enhancing and scaling reductions, which is pretty cool. So that comes out September 17th. But I just thought it was super interesting how these big tech companies are working closely with games to fix their issues, as opposed to like the game developers trying to tackle this issue that they've had with like end game lag since the game came out.
Honestly, that's probably the first and last company you're gonna see like Nvidia like pushing like integrating that deep of a feature for them just because of the sheer audience size. Like that's a good marketing play for them. But I don't know, like it's not like they're gonna fucking be working with like Activision anytime soon. You just don't have the pull.
I feel like if you have some crazy feature, not a lot of games have unique features nowadays, but if a game does have one, I think it's important for relationships like these to develop, because it's the developers are limited by the technology they have to work on. So if they like have a close relationship with these graphics cards companies, it's like, hey, we're working on this feature, could you like try and like keep this in mind on your next iteration, like just like that kind of conversation. I feel like this is what opens the door.
I do think the
to-
idea is like a lot of cross promotion as well, where it's
Yeah.
like this is like it works both ways, where they're like this is specifically made for our game, and you can be like, and like this is the graphic card of Fortnite or whatever game, which is good for the company as well. So
I mean, there's always that risk of they could hit that. What was that? I forget the name of the anti-cheat software that Valorant had that caused a lot of issues.
Vanguard or something.
Vanguard,
Vanguard.
yeah. Initially, if you have this graphics card and then you find out some reason down the road, like a few hours into your session, it fucks up something. It might not be
Yeah,
graphics.
high
It might just be
synergy.
something else. Yeah, and it's just like the extreme. Like, oh, you buy this graphics card, you just get shit on. It's like it's like, oh yeah.
Sorry.
So there's always that, which I think would be hilarious, but I don't know.
Well, also too, like you look at that card too, like they're migrating to Unreal Engine 5, like over the course of like 2021. So like their ray tracing support and all these other features that they're adding on to run really well with a game engine. So they're more aligning. It's not specifically for Fortnite. It's
Yeah,
more for
with
aligning with Unreal Engine 5 and the amount of games. Like honestly, even Unreal Engine 5 is going to be you're going to be see a crazy number of games coming out on it just because like the lower barrier of entry and then the amount of features that even from a professional studio, like they're shooting Mandalorian in Unreal Engine 5. Like the amount of like I'm not surprised that like a graphics card company is going to align with something that's going to like revolutionize the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
So you're
But
going to
this
see
is
a
like
lot
the
of
first time graphics cards companies, from my knowledge, have really worked so closely with game developers. Usually it's just like a graphics card comes out and then like you get a game. Either it makes the game better or it doesn't, and then that's like it. But
It'd be interesting if there ends up being like bidding wars between gaming companies to be like,
Yeah.
make my graphic card.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
and
don't
then,
think it
like,
would be game companies. It's more like engine companies. And like now too, like you look at the technology that's coming out, like that uncanny valley. Like you're starting to see the ramifications of slowly digging our way out of it. Like where you see something like this, where it's like these technologies are all aligning.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. And further news, the Overwatch League playoffs started this week, and like to promote it, I guess the league offered a bracket system where if you could guess like the exact bracket going from like the bottom, like all 20 teams are in the playoffs this year because it's online. The season's a little sketch, so if you had to guess like every single matchup, then the next round, like the higher seed teams pick the lower seed teams, you have to pick which one they choose, and then who wins, and then at the grand finals of it all, you have to pick the score line of who the winner is. And in the very first day of the playoffs, Boston Uprising beat the Houston Outlaws and knocked out 95% of people's brackets.
To be fair,
So you need the...
not mine. Not mine.
Yeah. Tell us how your boys suck, Jake. Go ahead.
Yeah, my boys are fucking trash, but this is like surprise. Like they just needed a meta where Myungbong could just completely just fuck on people on his Ana. He literally just shat on people like nonstop.
People thought that it would be good for Houston because they literally don't have a main tank player, and it's like now there's no main tank in the meta. It's like a Roadhog instead a lot of the time, or Winston. But like,
I mean, well, you also have Blase, and he's not. The fact he's not on Boston, and he couldn't beat Boston except like once.
Yeah, I was saying that the season started with them throwing with Blase on McCree, and now it ended with them throwing with Blase on Hog. So.
Well, I feel bad for him, but it's like. Yeah, like Boston won 2 games the whole season. That's why it's like a big deal. That's why no one picked them. And then like one of those games was against Houston. The other one is against the Gladiators. I was hoping that the Gladiators would pick Boston after they beat Houston, which would be hilarious.
They didn't. I think it's because they were afraid. Like
I know.
We can't let this happen.
But
we can't give them the chance.
I mean, dude, they played a pretty close game against Atlanta. It was close. They easily could have forced a game 5 for I think the first map. I forget what map it was, but I know it was Control. I mean, or King of the Hill, whatever it's called. And it was super close. It could have gone either way. They were relying on Atlanta had to rely on some Reaper play. High skill, very big brain plays.
It's
but
the new goats.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my last point on it is just like. As a fan of Boston, I'm happy, but as like a fan of just like the league itself, I think it's just like Boston should never even have played a game. They should have been like them, Houston, like the bottom. I don't know, like few people from each. Yeah, but still, it's like the LCS had had a lot of flack for having 8 teams in their playoffs.
They didn't even stand a chance.
And yeah, but over here in Overwatch, we got everybody in the playoffs. So I'm just like.
But because they do that now, Washington Justice are doing it. I think it's a bigger issue that like this happens every year. That Overwatch League, there's like a huge balance patch right before the playoffs, and that makes these crazy upsets where sometimes the best team all year they just can't adapt to this new meta, and they flame out early. So
I mean that happened in LCS too. Like we can get into that after your other point.
Yeah, but the other one I wanted to talk about was in the next round of the playoffs, it was the Gladiators. They got first pick, and they did not pick Boston because they were shook to get shamed once again. They picked another pretty shitty team, the Toronto Defiant, and that game was like super close, and they originally weren't going to play their star player, the Gladiators, Birdring, because they said he was sick. But after they lost the first map, and they were like, Birdring, pop some Theraflu and get in there, boy, because we need it. And he went nuts, and he's carried them. But then afterwards, they have the player cams after the win, and he goes to get up, and he just collapses on camera.
No.
Talk about leaving it on the court.
Man, sometimes you take so much. Get him a little too much codeine, and now he's leaning hard.
My boy literally collapsed under the weight of his team.
Yeah, dude. We gotta do those deadlifts. Oh man.
Prayers out to Birdring. You're a real one.
Yeah, it's funny because his coach, Deepak, very first season of Overwatch League, he got in trouble for at halftime between games, like shoulder checked Jake from the Houston Outlaws, and he had to like write up an apology, like in the middle of the game against each other. He's like, I was not trying to intimidate their players.
But at the same time, fuck them, let them know.
At the same time, I would do it again if I could.
And someone freezed it, like when he's helping him up, and it looks like he's like, and Birdring collapses. It's a Deepak iron shoulder.
Amazing.
That is fantastic.
What other playoffs are happening, Jake?
Well, currently, as we're recording, it's Game 5 of the finals for LCS of TSM FlyQuest, and real quick, going into this, kind of going off the point of like dropping a patch before playoffs, kind of like shifting things around, like some teams who are like looking pretty dominant, or like in that kind of like in that middle group of teams, you know, like they could just like, that's, I think like a vast, and a lot of people would call them like the soup or something like that. Just like they could you could be like in like 8th place near the bottom, or you could be up in 4th. Like those teams, like pretty interchangeable. But like C9 got stomped essentially last weekend by TSM, and they went like 35-2 in the spring in the previous split. And the first half of summer split, they were just like absolutely pooping on everybody. Like it wasn't even a chance, and they were just like memeing on people. And then TSM, throughout the last half of the split, they started losing a lot of games. They looked shaky. A lot of people saying their mentals were like broken because they were just like they didn't know how to lose. That's what like a lot of people were saying. So it's like once they started losing, they just couldn't recuperate, and they got pooped on by TSM, and now TSM just dominated FlyQuest first 2 games. FlyQuest came back, and now it's Game 5. So it's pretty exciting. I kind of want TSM to win just because I like Doublelift for talking shit. I think that's kind of like, I think we talked this on an earlier episode of like, is it better to have like more individual players, or is it better to follow a team if you want to like dive into like an esports scene, and like having Doublelift as like that person known for talking mad shit is just like was super easy to like just follow one person versus a team. But apparently TSM fans are pretty rowdy, and they kind of cross the line a lot apparently from like when they played against Golden Guardians.
The downside of your best
I don't know. It's like I've never felt the need to like at least never in person or like on the internet. It's like there's a line that like you just don't cross. It's like just like borderline like beyond harassment. It's like death threats and stuff. Like these people, like kids on the internet are crazy. And it's like rowdy. I'm like, calm down. It's a video game. These people.
It happens with sports too. It's like, oh, they're throwing a ball around, bro. Relax. But this is like their whole identity.
Yeah.
And do you think they're influenced by their they're like, oh, my boy Doublelift is out here talking shit. Gotta represent.
I think like apparently like the TSM organization is kind of like not incentivized, but like didn't like discourage or like kind of has like a history of being like toxic. But it's like how like there's like a line of like trash talk, but like these kids like take it beyond like trash talk into like the personal field. So I'm just like, calm down.
Yeah.
Like if anyone comes up to you in person, these kids are like the first to get on their knees and like grovel. Like, oh please, fetal position.
But with these keyboard warriors, they'll be fucking coming for your mother. Like they're literally gonna send death threats to your mom if they could find her address.
Oh yeah, they have all the time in the world.
When they send your IP address to you, dude.
Also, swatting is a thing that these people get your IP addresses in the FBI.
That went away real quick.
You've been swatted, Blake?
What?
You've been swatted?
No, dude, that shit goes away real quick. That shit was hot
for a while, where people were doing that all the time until motherfuckers started getting some jail time. Like, put these 14-year-olds in jail, and that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit too. T1 recently released a press release where they're going to start seeking legal action against all these people that are sending death threats about benching one of their star players.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, some of the stuff. Like, they have some examples you can find out there on the internet, and like they're literally like they're like doxing people's families and like sending death threats to like even people that are unrelated to like the pros. Like, their staff is getting harassed constantly, and now they're seriously taking legal action against some of these people. Now I don't know how they're actually going to because the sheer volume that these people are receiving on like a weekly basis.
Even your intern can get it, dude. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
I know who you delivered coffee. I know who you delivered coffee to yesterday.
Yeah, oh my god. Like, I'm the one that made your coffee, bitch. Better have a taste tester next time.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I think that's so crazy how these people can just like find your information and then like have nothing better to do than threaten you because a player is benched. Like, and like they think they know more than the person who was hired to coach the team.
He's been bad, and their win rate went up since he's been benched. So like, what do you like? What are you even mad
I mean,
about?
there's some arguments for why they did it, but yeah, but it's so stupid. It's like he wasn't performing, so.
Yeah, you never know what the internal dispute is.
Yeah,
as well.
like,
what if he's just
I mean,
going crazy on the team house?
I don't know. It's
like, especially if it's your best player, I doubt they're just like, fuck you.
well, it's not just
You're
it's the
sitting.
fact that it's the best player. It's also Faker, which is like the
that's true.
poster
Yeah,
boy
which is-
for a
he's-
league.
Yeah, and he just has such a huge following that's gonna create a visceral response, like all the XQC shit for year one of Overwatch League, like.
Yeah, all right, but if they bench double lift, it's not like I'm going to go send somebody a fucking death threat.
Hey, you spam in the chat. You don't fucking threaten lives.
Well, Double Lift also has never made it out of the group stage, where Faker has won 3 championships. Well, so.
Yeah. But that like gets into the point we were talking about a little bit off camera about.
Right.
How do you regulate that? Like, what do you classify as a death threat? What is too young of an age to be sent to jail or taken legal action on?
I mean, honestly, what's going to happen? Like, they can just sue them for damages. They're going to sue their family for damages. And honestly, they're going to have to make some examples out of people. This is not just a game industry issue either.
Yeah.
Like,
it's an accountability issue.
It's crazy to see that, like, it took an esports organization to finally push this, because like anybody in the entertainment industry, the amount of harassment that these people receive on a daily to weekly basis is ridiculous. Yeah. And until you start making examples out of these people, they're gonna just keep hiding behind that anonymity that the internet gives you, because like, you know, if you press them in the streets, they're gonna be the first ones crying, but like,
yeah,
they feel like they're untouchable over the internet, and if you can prove to them no.
What if you got banned from the internet?
Yes, there needs to be some
without internet bans.
There's some kind of accountability on, like, guess what? Your social security number no longer allowed to apply for any internet service.
Go be a real boy. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah. Here's a stick. Go play outside.
Yeah.
Honestly, the perfect punishment for these types of people. Like,
like you can't send them to jail.
Around being a keyboard warrior.
That's a huge hindrance too. Like your whole, like, even your career life. It's like, damn, I have to apply to jobs in person for the rest of my life.
You have to write in cursive with a quill. It's like,
yeah, pandemic hits, you're out of luck, bro.
It solves the problem. These people who like spend so much time on the internet, now you forced to like go do something else.
Yeah, it's kind of like how League and some games do, where they have like a shitter queue for, it's like, if you've been reported a lot, but like not serious enough to ban you, we'll just put you in a queue with all the other shitty people that get reported all the time, and just live in your own hell.
You get to go to the real world.
Yeah, welcome to the real world.
I think that's a genius idea. ban these.
Yeah, I
kids
think
from
that
the
will
internet.
actually be like a worthy punishment because like most of the time too, like we all know that these are like 12-year-olds
Yeah,
too, right?
you can't really
So,
send a
like-
12-year-old to prison for.
Yeah, I mean, well, what are you gonna financially ruin their entire family because this kid is fucking the psychopath? You know, like the
Yeah, because they didn't have child blocks on. Like, come on.
Yeah, like it's crazy how much power people have on the internet or like feel like they have just
It's 'cause
from.
they have that's why it's the perfect solution is to force them into the real world because this is like their entire life. This is like what they base everything around. Where this is their only way to impact the real world is by sending a SWAT team or threatening your family. Like at least someone's thinking about me at night. Like even though it's because I sent them a death threat.
fear.
I got attention. Oh yes.
Better than to be feared than not loved at all. I guess.
Yeah. It's like, wow.
Irrelevant or being feared. Jesus.
Yeah, being irrelevant is these kids' worst nightmare. So it's the same with school shooters that were used to be, where it's like at least my name will go down in infamy, but infamy does not support.
Yeah,
school
we
Well,
shootings.
people just
not
got around that like we're never gonna say your name ever. So it's like, yep.
But now it's the point where there's so many, it's like I can't keep track. Like
Yeah.
who knows?
You gotta name them something dumb also. Like I think that's gonna be another requirement. Like
Well, you can't use their real name. You name them something really embarrassing, so that
Ass
nobody.
hat.
What if they're banned from the internet?
Yeah, yeah. If you
I
get
know,
banned, you
I
have
think
to
it'll
now
just be-
change
I think
your
it'll
name
just be-
legally to your username.
I think it'll just be funny. You're like, oh yeah, I'll email it to you, and you're like, oh, I can't do that. Why not, Jimmy? I was swatting on the internet back in the day.
Yeah, I think it has to be kind of akin to like that sexual predator thing, where it's like now you're a blip on the map, and every job
Yeah.
interview you have to be like, yes, I'm in jail. You don't want to know why, but there
I've
needs
been
to be some-
e-jailed. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been e-jailed.
So
yeah.
can you just print that paperwork out for me and
Here's my address.
here's my
Mail it.
address.
Here's a
can
stamp,
only
I carry them
mail it.
around
I
now.
can't email.
I could only email.
Hey, that'll save the post office. People
Win-win.
get enough of these kids off the internet. They'll be getting a lot of mail. Amazing.
Oh my god.
All right, we're the Infamy Fantasy Esports team. This is our esport news roundup for the week. We post podcasts every week, so check it out, subscribe and like. And we're hosting Fantasy Fortnite tournaments at infamy.gg for all upcoming tournaments. So sign up and win. We'll see you next time.